Hi, and welcome to round one of Vote 2014 Santa Monica Council Candidates Live. I'm Sandy Jacobson. Election day is almost here, and tonight's forum will give you an excellent opportunity to size up all 14 of the candidates for 3 seats on the City Council. Here's how the show works. The candidates have been randomly divided into small groups, and each will have the chance to express his or her views on a range of topics. Then, during a roundtable discussion, the candidates will be able to interact with each other. In order to give the candidates enough time to really expand on their answers and for you to get to know them better, we've split the field of 14 into 4 groups, and each group will be joining us for about a half an hour, all live tonight. The League of Women Voters of Santa Monica Education Fund coordinated the gathering of questions and invited a cross-section of community leaders who represent a range of community interests to come to City TV's Studio 16 to ask their questions. The League has curated a selection of these questions for the candidates to answer for you tonight. And in a new twist, we're inviting you to join in on the discussion tonight by participating in our live viewer polls. For each segment, we're going to ask you the same question as the candidates, and you'll tell us your answer to the same question. You can vote in the poll via text or email, so get your cell phones and computers ready. If you miss any of the groups, this show repeats on City TV, Cable Channel 16, Cable Channel 99, and smvote.org. We wish to thank the community leaders who took the time to come to our studio to tape their thoughtful and important questions. And as always, we thank the candidates for their participation. So now let me introduce the candidates for segment number 1 of Council Candidates Live. In our first group, we have Jennifer Kennedy, Jerry Rubin, and Frank Gruber. We'll start with opening statements. Jennifer, will you go first?
Sure, thanks. Hi, I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I'm running for City Council because I'm passionate about controlling growth, about improving our city's public process, about protecting residential neighborhoods, and preserving Santa Monica's unique charm and character of our city. I am endorsed by council members Kevin McEwen, Tony Vasquez, and Ted Winterer, and I am really interested in preserving renters' rights and also creating and producing affordable housing for Santa Monicans.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jerry, how about your opening statement?
Thank you very, very much, Sandy and City TV. My name is Jerry Rubin. My wife Marissa and I have been living in Santa Monica for many, many decades. I truly love Santa Monica. That's one of the reasons I'm running. I'm a longtime peace and environmental activist, and I feel that Santa Monica is one of the best cities anywhere in America. I think we have a good process. I think the City Council does great work, the boards, the commissions, and our city staff. And I want to try to think of all the positive things Santa Monica is doing. It's always good to be critical, but we need to emphasize the positive.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Frank, will you give us your opening statement?
Sure. Hi. Frank Gruber. I moved to Santa Monica more than 30 years ago, and for nearly all of that time, I've been actively involved in the issues that affect Santa Monica, that make it special, that keep Santa Monica through my membership on community groups, on city commissions. For a column I wrote for over a decade for the Santa Monica Lookout News, I've really been at the forefront of many of these issues, of protecting our neighborhoods, of our school system, of making the quality of life here as great as it is. I've been endorsed by the Santa Monica Police and Firefighters Associations, by Community for Excellent Public Schools, and by the LA League of Conservation's voters, along with community leaders from across the political spectrum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. All right, we're going to go to our first question, and it is a question about the Santa Monica Civic.
Hi, I'm Mike Myers, and I'm the chair of the Santa Monica Arts Commission. With the loss of RDA funds, what would you propose that we do to raise the appropriate capital to reopen the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium?
Okay, so Santa Monica Civic. Jerry, what's your thoughts?
Well, it's a great question from Mike Myers. I happen to be the guy that went to the Landmarks Commission about a decade ago to see if they would landmark it. And they did unanimously. It's a gem. It just needs to be polished. When the governor pulled the redevelopment funding, that was a travesty, but we're not going to give up on this. I know our friend Gruber and a lot of other people are on a working group to try to see what we could do. We're going to have to raise some private funding. I'll leave that to the experts. All I know is the Civic Auditorium needs to remain here and be fully utilized.
Thank you, Jerry. I need to remind our candidates that our answers, we're going to keep them down to 30 seconds because then you'll have a chance to chat. Frank, tell us about your involvement in the...
Well, as Jerry mentioned, I'm actually the nominee of the Planning Commission to be part of this civic working group. And it is a huge issue about how to finance this, and that's the question that Michael asked. My view is that we first start working on the priorities that we have for what we want to save, what we want to get out of it. And then we, in effect, ask the world and say, look, this is what we want. This is what we think is most important. Come back to us with ideas that you have, because I don't think we can really come up with those answers all by ourselves.
Okay, Frank. And Jennifer.
Well, this process has begun, and a couple of weeks ago there was a meeting at the Civic Center that drew lots of residents from Santa Monica to talk about what could possibly happen on that site. And one of the major themes was that this site needs to be a world-class civic space. And there were representatives of the school community there who were talking about ensuring that there are arts uses on the adjacent property as it gets redeveloped in the future, and it could include symphony space or even convention space for conventions to happen here in Santa Monica. That might be a good way to help fund some of these uses.
Okay, so this roundtable doesn't sound like it'll be very contentious. You all seem to be in agreement, but the devil's usually in the details. Are there differences in the way you would go about funding this?
Well, I think there's a lot of concern in the community because of something that came out of a ULI report that to save the Civic is going to necessitate commercial development. And that's certainly a big concern. My point is that until we know what are different alternatives there, we don't know what the alternatives are for financing either. For instance, it might be that some well-endowed nonprofit comes in and says, like the LA Phil, maybe the LA Phil wants to put its West Side auditorium there. Who knows? I'm just bringing that up. But we don't really know what the possibilities are until we focus on what we want to get out of it.
You mentioned symphony space.
Well, at the last workshop at the Civic Center, the consultants brought forward numerous examples of world-class civic spaces all around the country and, in fact, all around the world. And they'll be presenting some more details to the working group, and over time, like Frank mentioned, over time people will be able to weigh in and really hone in on the details about what will work there.
Jerry?
Well, you know, I think everybody's enjoyed themselves with their families at the Civic Auditorium. Not only our local Stairway to the Stars and the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra, but some of the greatest people in the world. I remember Bob Marley had performed there, Bob Dylan, the Eagles, the Bee Gees. My wife and I saw the Dalai Lama speak there. Yeah. They used to have the Academy Awards there, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events, and they have a hydraulic floor that changes from a concert venue to a convention site. So it's really a unique auditorium. It was built by Welton Beckett, one of the best architects in the world, and it should be preserved.
Thank you all. Thank you. Well, we've heard the candidates answer our first question about redevelopment funds and reopening the Civic Auditorium, and now we'd like to hear from you. To participate, text your answer to 22333. Text the answer that you see in the parentheses on the screen. Or the easiest way to vote is to go to pollev, that's pollev.com/citytv. You'll see each poll when it's open and just click to send in your vote. So now tell us your answer to this question. With the loss of RDA funds, what would you propose we do to raise the appropriate capital to reopen the Santa Monica Civic? A citywide bond measure? If so, type in text bond SM. Development on the site, including underground parking. Develop SM. Earmarked tax? Then text tax SM or other. text Other SM. For example, if you think a citywide bond measure is the answer, text text Bond SM to 22333. We'll be back with the results before the end of this segment to see how your answers square with the answers of the candidates. Now on to our next question, which has to do with room rates in Santa Monica.
My name is Nat Travis, former mayor of Santa Monica. Tourism is a big part of Santa Monica's economic vitality. These visitors spend over $1.3 billion annually generating retail sales, transit, occupancy tax for the city. Nearly 12,000 jobs within the city are supported by the tourist industry. The city's 36 hotels with more than 3,800 rooms typically operate with occupancy rates above the 80% range on an annual basis. Room rates are among some of the highest in Los Angeles County. As an elected member of the Santa Monica City Council, do you support a continued aggressive campaign by our Convention and Visitors Bureau to bring tourists to our city?
All right, here's for your 30-second answers. Jennifer, will you lead us off, please?
Well, as a member of the City Council, I would really ensure that the city prioritizes residents' needs first. We do have a very diverse tax base, and tourists in our city play an important role. But for example, when we're talking about the hotels, I think that it's really important that we have hotels in our city that have affordable rates. There are people in Santa Monica who have family members who come to visit, and if they need space, they'll want to have their family perhaps in an affordable unit. In an affordable hotel room. So I think it's really important if some of the rooms are priced highly, they need to be priced moderately as well.
Thank you. Jennifer, how about Jerry?
Well, I think there's kind of a false argument that pits residents against tourists. I think if you're making the city pedestrian friendly for residents, extra safe, extra culturally enhanced, all these things, I think that benefits residents doubly. I love meeting people from all over the country and all over the world. I think that adds to our diversity, and it certainly helps to keep our AAA bond rating and provide services that are needed.
Thank you, Jerry. Frank.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback a little bit on what Jerry said. The fact is that while Santa Monica has been a tourist destination for its entire history, 20, 30 years ago, it was kind of down in the dumps when it came to this. But what happened is very good government in Santa Monica over the last 30 years has created a really great place to live. And that's, if you're a tourist yourself and travel around the world, you go to places that are nice. And that's what Santa Monica does. So the two things fit together. I think the real issue is that we are a mecca for tourism and have always been. There's been a huge boom in tourism in Southern California for the last 20 years, and we haven't built any new hotels in Santa Monica for a long time.
So let us talk about this together then. You're all pretty much in accord that tourism benefits the city. But the question is, does too much tourism damage the way of life of the residents? Jennifer, you seem to feel that maybe that was the case?
Well, I wasn't saying that tourism necessarily damages the quality of life for residents, but there has to be a balance. We have to make sure that we invest in our neighborhoods, that we invest in our schools, we make sure that our sidewalks and our streets and our bike lanes are safe. And in addition, we need to make sure that the services that are here for the tourists don't impact the residents in a negative way. And this can be everything from bars and restaurants that stay open late and impact people who are living in their apartments to traffic. And we need to be mindful of all of it.
Frank, would you agree with that? I see you nodding your head.
Well,
there.
I agree a lot. I mean, I think that the neighborhoods have their own dynamic and have to be, really for the residents. Most of our tourism is concentrated downtown along the beaches, of course. In my neighborhood of Ocean Park, I'm only a few blocks from the beach, but the neighborhood is incredibly quiet and just a very neighborly place.
So you don't get a lot of tourists where you
No,
are.
not on my little street.
I mean, even in that
area. We have a park, but it's used by Little League and all the resident type stuff. I don't think that those things are necessarily contradictory. The downtown is different. No question, we have a lot of people downtown. My office is in downtown, so I'm downtown just about every day of the week, walking around there. And you know, we really created a pretty nice place with 3rd Street Promenade, and people come down. I don't think our traffic problems are really mostly involved with tourism. The hotels don't generate much traffic, the studies show. We do get regional traffic coming in on weekends, but we've had that. If you look at pictures from the 50s, that's always been the case, coming down to the beach. So again, I think it's part of our DNA and we have to make it work. But Jennifer's absolutely right that you have to be careful about bars and the late night uses along the boulevards adjacent to neighborhoods. That is something definitely to think about.
Jerry, what's...
Yeah, I agree. You want to protect the people in the nearby areas that are residents, but you know, we have great concerts on the pier. We had Cirque du Soleil. There's always challenges, but we can meet those challenges. I never had a car in my life, so we have transportation challenges, but we can overcome those, and we just need a different approach.
Go ahead.
You know, I'd like to add that a lot of the amenities or services that are available to tourists here, for example, you know, the concerts at the pier and the Cirque du Soleil, I mean, these are all really important, but I want to make sure too that they're available to residents, they're accessible to residents at an affordable price too.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We're going to go to the next question, but our poll is still open and we're asking you to chime in with your vote on the question you see on the screen. Text your answer to 22333. Send the answer that you see in the parentheses or go to pollev.com/citytv to vote on the easiest way online. If you want to vote for earmarked tax, text tax SM to 22333. It's just that easy. It's easier to do it than to say it. Now it's time for our next question, and that question has to do with measures H and HH.
My name is Jackie Martin, and I'm with Uline here, Local 11. Contrary to popular belief, many hotels and food services workers live here in Santa Monica. However, that number is still too low if Santa Monica aspires to be a green and economically diverse city. Do you support Measure H and HH? What else will you do as a City Council member to support affordable housing for the workers that make up our largest sector of employment?
All right. Frank, let's have you go first.
Well, I strongly support H and HH, as does everybody on the up the table right now. It is to take the place of the redevelopment money we have. I think the important thing to remember is that Santa Monica has always been economically diverse. You know, 50 years ago, our main industry was the Douglas plant, and we were a blue-collar town, and we need to maintain that. And these days, the unionized workers at our hotels, you know, for them to live here, we have to be able to provide affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Jennifer, how do you feel about H and HH?
As Frank said, I do support H and HH. I think it's really important for the city to be able to have funds to be able to control the amount of affordable housing that's built without relying on developer-driven projects. Another thing that the City Council can do going forward is try to create more affordable housing, and this goes to the sustainability aspect of it, to create more affordable housing near our light rail so that those people that you know, come into our town or work outside of our town have access to the new Expo line.
Thank you. Jerry?
Well, I just wanted to briefly say I agree wholeheartedly with Jennifer, and I agree wholeheartedly with Frank. And most of the neighborhood organizations in Santa Monica, I did get a kind of a manipulative and very deceptive piece of literature, in my opinion, that urged people to vote no on H and HH, and I urge people to check that out. It's very important for affordable and low-income housing, and Santa Monica needs more of that.
So this is a very non-contentious group. You're all pretty much in accord. Let's talk a little bit about H and HH. Explain, would the voters vote yes on both of them? Frank?
I think that's really important.
One's an advisory vote,
Yeah.
I believe, and I would urge yes on both.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they aren't opposing votes?
No,
right?
no, not at all. The reason is that if the tax is officially not earmarked for anything, it can pass with 50% plus one vote. Then HH is the advisory thing. It's like Y and YY a few years ago that was passed by the voters of Santa Monica.
It's very hard to remember all these
Yes,
past ballots. So you're all in favor of this. And is there a strong, have you encountered, as Jerry was saying, a strong negative vote against it?
Well,
Wouldn't say it's a
haven't.
strong negative vote, but there
No,
are
that's why I'm
some,
asking.
you know.
But you saw that negative mailer.
Yeah, and you know, I just urge people to check it out, you know, and hopefully make the right decision and vote for HNHH. It's really crucial.
It is really crucial. You know, there's been some over the years. There's been some talk about building large projects in Santa Monica that yield only a very small portion of affordable housing, and this will help that. This will help the city council, you know, control how much affordable housing is actually built.
it's also important to remember that most of the money that's been spent on affordable housing in Santa Monica goes for rehab. I think about 60% goes to buildings that are otherwise dilapidated that are rehabbed and dedicated to affordable rent. So it's very good for the community in many respects.
So it's not so much new development. It's not new
not
buildings.
most of it. Yeah.
No, it
yeah.
can help. It can actually help protect existing occupancy.
Existing.
Neighborhoods,
Okay.
yeah, something that might be Ellis otherwise, and turn into something can continue as part of our housing stock for our working people who cannot afford. Let's face it, housing in Santa Monica and on the whole West Side is becoming very expensive.
Protect our neighborhoods and keep people in our neighborhoods.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
And get a living wage for workers,
Yeah.
too. That'll help.
Yeah.
All right, I bet we have some questions about that, but I think that may not be for your group. As a quick reminder, we're doing live text polling tonight as part of our program and inviting you to weigh in your opinion on questions we're asking the candidates. If you want to vote via text, you're sending us the info in the parentheses to 22333 or vote online at pollev.com/citytv. Let's see who's up next for our last question for the candidates. I think it has to do with sustainability.
Hi, my name is Gina De Vaca. I'm the co-chair of the Pico Neighborhood Association. My question for you is, how will you make Santa Monica a greener and more sustainable community?
Okay, Jerry, that's just what you were talking about.
Well,
Right up your wheelhouse.
well, as a peace and environmental activist, I must say I think Santa Monica is doing a pretty good job. We have great environmental groups here, like Heal the Bay, et cetera, the Natural Resources Defense Council, and beach cleanups all the time. I think people don't realize how much environmental integrity is going into our city. And that's such a good thing when we have environmental sustainability and keeping a AAA bond rating. That's not easy, but we're doing it.
Thank you, Jerry. Frank, how about you?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, we've been dealing with this. We're a city that pioneered sustainability task force and that kind of thing 20-some years ago. But I think right now the focus is, while we're still covering things like, non-fossil based fuel and that kind of stuff, we're also moving to an idea where a healthy city is a convenient city, a sustainable city is a convenient city, so that we want to make every neighborhood, like my neighborhood in Ocean Park, we're blessed with Main Street. We can walk down there. We want every neighborhood to have a street like that, that people can walk to, or maybe take a short trip to a store in their car, take transit to. And I think that makes a more holistic kind of sustainable city.
Thank you. Jennifer, you look like you're ready.
Well, sure. To build on that, I agree. I think that sustainable city is not just about environmental protections. It's also about making sure that we have a healthy economy. And one of the best ways to do that, especially here in Santa Monica, is to make sure that as new development, for example, happens perhaps near our light rail stations, that the ground floor retail is neighborhood serving, but the Buy Local program that's really robust here in Santa Monica is excellent for our economic well-being. And I would continue to promote our Buy Local program because these are locally owned businesses and the money goes back into our community and it helps to create a sustainable community.
So each one of you has mentioned an aspect of sustainability, and I don't know that necessarily I would have thought of some of those. Talk about what you think, or expand on what you were talking about in your quick answer. Jerry, do you want to go first?
Well, one thing I also want to throw in just real quick is that this year the Santa Monica City has proclaimed art to be a sustainable city goal, and we think that's a good thing. That's one of the reasons we're out trying to preserve this wonderful Muir Woods mural in the Ocean Park area. But again, I just feel in some ways that if a few hotels are a little bit taller, they'll provide wonderful open space, which is good for the environment, and millions of dollars more that could help fund environmental programs and social programs, as well as union workers. So that's why I feel that a few taller buildings would be an asset to Santa Monica.
Frank, do you, you're nodding your head, but do you see?
Well, I was nodding my head. Well, yes. I mean, I'm not necessarily, I'm nodding head more the concept of the overall sustainability. I have no opinion about how tall buildings should be in this context. I think every building has to be looked at individually. But I think what Jerry is getting at is that sustainability is always considered to be a three-legged stool. You have, everybody knows about environmental sustainability, but there's
composting and all.
Yeah, there's also social sustainability and economic sustainability. And you really have to have all three. It's not a matter of having some pristine Arcadia out in the wilderness. We live in cities. We need to make cities sustainable, and cities involve people.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, you're nodding too.
Yeah, and I think about, when I think about sustainability, I also think about our high quality childcare and preschool programs here in Santa Monica, and I think about accessible art and cultural opportunities. They go hand in hand. As children, you know, enter the school environment and have high quality childcare opportunities, having these cultural opportunities here, you know, accessible arts and cultural opportunities available to children at a young age really helps improve and make our environment more sustainable too, our community more sustainable.
So you're all in agreement on this one. Thumbs up, huh, Jerry?
Well, I guess so, absolutely.
Well, it's a nice way to start off our show with people who agree about tourism and the Santa Monica Civic and sustainability. I'd like to thank Jennifer, Jerry, and Frank for joining us tonight. So now let's take a look at our audience poll results. You heard Jennifer, Jerry, and Frank talk about raising funds to reopen the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. What did our audience think? Well, let's see. 50% were in favor of having a bond measure, 25% for development, 13% for a new tax, and 13% for others. Well, we'll see what that other means. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by group number 2. Stay put.